Hey, girlfriends. We are girlfriends of a certain age. Today, we are discussing alcohol and caffeine and how it affects our bodies in midlife. Let's discuss.
We're girlfriends of a certain age. In midlife, we got a lot to say. So let's get loud. We won't fade away. Cause we're girlfriends of a certain age.
So, I want to dive in and give us some stats, and then you and I are both going to share our personal experiences with how we feel about alcohol, caffeine. This has been a big discussion among a lot of my girlfriends of a certain age.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening? So, I can't wait, Flachet, to hear about your experience with it all. I definitely have some stuff going on, but I want to share a couple of sobering statistics. So
Please.
I got this from Flow Space, which is a really interesting resource for women of a certain age around perimenopause and all things related to it. So check that out. Heavy drinking is up for women in midlife significantly.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all.
No.
Yeah.
So it's been steadily going up since like the 80s and 90s. And then the pandemic just blew it up. In fact, there's a statistic from the same source that says that in the height of the pandemic, alcohol related deaths in women increased by 42%.
Ooh, whoa. I mean, the first thing I think is self-medicating,
Exactly.
right? Our doctors are not helping us with our perimenopause and menopause symptoms, and alcohol is not that affordable, but it is readily available and it's legal.
Yes. And even if we're not aware that it's perimenopause related, although it likely may be, just mental health issues.
Right.
A lot of women use it for, anxiety and for depression and all those things. And culture has very much normalized alcohol, as we all know, and it's become much more prevalent, marketed towards women.
Oh,
Mommy juice, mommy wine clubs,
oh yeah.
right? There's a lot of haha about that. And in a moment, I will share how I got kind of swept into that for a couple of years, and woo, it was a little cray cray. So just for your information, for people listening, going, well, what is heavy drinking? What is binge drinking? What are we talking about? According to the CDC, heavy drinking for women is more than 8 drinks per week.
Oh,
Binge drinking is considered drinking more than 4 drinks on one occasion.
oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. But yes, I mean, like my body, that would just like I would be passed out with that amount. But then, when in times of my life where I drank more,
Mm-hmm.
my ability to drink more also grew. When I lived
Yep.
in Ireland,
Oh no, oh no, not those crazy Irish people like my relatives.
or my relatives.
Yeah, yeah. And the one final kind of note about this is that alcohol can have like, serious health consequences, as we all know. And for women in particular, it really can increase our chance of breast cancer. So women who even just drink 1 drink a day are at the risk of 5 to 10% more of developing breast cancer. So I am not saying any of this to anyone to say never drink again, but I think that it is important for us to give ourselves some sobering statistics just to know how we want to navigate this. Because, like I said, a lot of us it's starting to hit us differently.
Absolutely. I think it's Dr. Mary Claire Haver,
Mm.
who is a menopause specialist. She's an MD. Beautiful work. If you haven't checked her work out, please do. And she says, if I drink alcohol, I know I'm choosing not to sleep that night.
I hear that so often.
And that point about choosing, I'm choosing not to drink that night. It's like, oh my gosh, I know that when I drink or too much at night, I get so hot at night. I wouldn't call it a hot flash, but
Mm.
my body just heats up. And
Mm.
that wasn't something happening to me in my 20s or 30s.
I will also feel crappy the next day. So if I choose to drink, I'm taking a risk that my whole next day might be ruined. And this is from 1 drink.
Mm,
Is it worth it? And
probably
so
not.
certainly like hard alcohol, except for an occasional margarita on a hot summer day, I just refrain from because it ain't worth it. If I eat something with food, if I drink a lot of water, maybe I'm okay. But even still, sometimes the next day I wake up with a big old headache.
Yeah.
Our metabolism has slowed down. So for both caffeine and alcohol, the same is true, that it stays in our system longer, which I think is probably connected to why you have a drink, you go to bed. I've had the experience where I fall asleep and then at like 3 a.m., my eyes are like, "Bah!" I'm wide awake.
Yes. Yeah, I'm always surprised how many people I talk to and they feel like because alcohol is a depressant for the nervous system, it does make us feel like all sleepy and drowsy and loopy. How many people I talk to who say, "Oh, well, I just, it helps me sleep."
Mm.
But then you talk to them and like they're not getting good sleep throughout the night,
No.
right? Or they're not often connecting their insomnia to potentially the alcohol usage.
And the sugar in alcohol. That's
Right.
another huge thing that I think can like disrupt our sleep. So all of that is really a big deal. So let's talk about our own personal thing with booze, and then we'll jump over to caffeine. What's your relationship with alcohol these days? How much do you drink? Do you drink at all? What are you doing these days?
So I do love a nice glass of white wine at the end of the day. And
Mm.
what I've noticed is I'm not buying it as much anymore.
Mhm.
I maybe will buy 2 bottles a month
Mhm.
and that, I'll cook with it. My husband and I will have a little bit. He's a beer drinker, so
Mhm.
like we're not even drinking the same thing. And I've been very aware of how it's not worth it to me and how much I can save on my grocery bills, which I
Mm.
know we're all feeling right now, not buying alcohol.
Ooh, and when you go out and order drinks, it's half of what you pay for
Yeah.
or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I find myself not craving it that much, not drinking it that much, and how my sleep has been improved, saving money on my groceries.
Yeah.
And then also like my kids not seeing me drink it. They don't see
Mm.
me drink wine every day anymore. And there
Mm.
was a time when I did drink it every night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, similarly to you, I also had a phase where, especially when they were in elementary school, there was just this like mommy wine culture,
Yeah.
right? It was like mommy gatherings. There were all of these things to like support the kids at school, which were like pedicures and mimosa days. And you're getting together with all these women, and it's like the social lubricant. So you're drinking more. And it just became this very, very normalized thing. And then I noticed, like you, that I'd have wine at night. And as I'm cooking, I have one glass. Well, one glass can easily turn into two. Well, that was good. And so and then I would just have constant headaches, be a little more cranky. Also, I'm a real avid exerciser just for like my mental health. It would totally take away my drive to exercise.
Mm.
So it was just all of a sudden, all the reasons why it felt good weren't adding up to anything. It was a little awkward, I will say, when I stopped drinking. This was still in elementary school. For the most part, I'll have like an occasional little drink here and there. I had a different relationship with some of these moms who I had, cultivated
Oh,
relationships with because I realized, oh, a lot of our relationship is centered around drinking.
right.
So that was interesting. But throughout the years, those moms who I've stayed in touch with, a lot of them aren't drinking or hardly drinking any longer. So I think a lot of us at this age are starting to recognize it's hitting us different.
It's
It's hitting
hitting
us
us
different.
different. It really
Hmm.
is. Yeah.
Hmm. So one alternative that I think is kind of fun, because I think, we still like to feel a little like permission to have a buzz. So there's options for like CBD, there's options for different marijuana, cannabis things, and you can like get your cocktail just right. How much of a buzz do you want? How much do you not want? I will say one thing that is on the horizon for me that I'm curious about are microdosing mushrooms.
Mm.
People say that in very, very small doses, it's really an interesting experience.
Yeah, I think that's something we'll dive into more in our private after hours conversation.
Yes.
So you can join us and do that. You can follow the link down below and just join up with us where that's where Jessica and I get a little more raw and real and
Yeah.
talk about things in a more honest and authentic way.
Getting down, like we do with our girlfriends. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, this is, yeah. All right, so should we move on to caffeine?
Let's do it.
Okay. So caffeine is overwhelmingly popular. Somewhere between 80 and 90% of Americans use caffeine every day. And so we know that there's a lot of benefits. Michael Pollan did a whole, the great author did a whole series of writing around the benefits of caffeine. And we know that this is a very ancient thing that many cultures have used, whether it's in the form of drinking coffee or tea or cocoa leaves. There's just a lot of ways, matcha, but it also is hitting different for me in midlife.
Oh, me too.
Okay, so tell me about you. How's it hitting you different?
Well, I have learned I just can't have it after 3 p.m. It will affect my sleep. Even if I go to sleep at after 10 or after 11 or even after midnight, my sleep will be impacted. So for me, my cutoff time, that's about when I pick up the kids. So I just know if I'm going to do it, I do it then. I've told you about this trick where I will have a little caffeine in the afternoon, take a nap, sit right after I drink it, set a timer for 30 to 40 minutes, and then wake up. And by the time I wake up, the caffeine's hitting my bloodstream. And so that's how I'm getting over the afternoon hump some days. At this point, I'm doing it maybe once a week, but it'll be this one day where I'm dragging. I almost need a spatula to like get myself up, and I realized, oh, I can just go lay down. And I work from home, so I know I'm very privileged to be able to have that ability. But
Right.
I have had a job before where I was like using that trick. I would go sleep in my car.
That's
And
cool.
so it can be done if you work out in the world as well, if you get creative. But how about you? How do you find?
I find caffeine to be something that I can get very easily addicted to. And in the past, I was such a coffee drinker. Like my coffee ramped up after kids, and for a while it was a lifesaver. Like I would not have been able to function without my coffee. But then there came a point where I realized that like 1 or 2 cups a day turned into 3 or 4 cups a day. You see a theme with me here.
Her uppers and her downers. We need to keep an eye. Yes.
Yeah, and just a little excessive, right? Like that's good. I want more. And so that actually started having some serious implications for me. I started feeling really anxious. I got heart palpitations. And then um, it can form breast lumps.
Oh.
Caffeine is known to create breast lumps. I and women in my family have kind of a special power to create lumps in our breasts, which is totally terrifying and scary.
Right.
I already have had one surgically removed. And then I had another one that came on after I started drinking a lot of coffee. They fortunately were just able to drain it. But the doctor said that yes, there is a really strong correlation between a lot of caffeine. And mind you, we're talking 4 cups of strong Pete's, like Sumatra coffee here. And so that was just a huge wake up call for me that it's not worth it. It's not worth it for my health. So I'm down to tea, and I drink my strong black tea in the morning. And I actually try to cut myself off right after lunch. And then mid afternoon, I have a decaf cup of tea, which I think has like a smidgen of caffeine in it, but not nearly as much.
Yeah.
But because I also teach some, coaching in the late afternoon, that feels like it's just the slightest pick me up for then.
Yeah. This is actually a really interesting conversation because as I zoom out, the like former therapist in me is looking at how much the culture supports us in having our uppers and our downers. Right?
100%.
So, and how much of life can feel like Groundhog Day. You wake up every day, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to drag yourself here. And if you have kids, there's all that drama.
So true.
And then at the end of the day, we're starting to want our downers.
Yeah.
And how do I smooth out? How do I take care of my anxiety, my frustrations, all the parts of myself where I'm not getting my needs met? So I need my downer to help me forget.
Oh my God.
My pot gummies, my booze, my cocktail, my wine hour with my buddies.
Yes.
And so I'm really sitting with that. And as I was preparing for this conversation, I was not aware of that. But sitting here with you,
Yeah.
I suddenly am very aware of where are we at? Where are we broken or breaking that we need so much chemical support and assistance,
Uppers and downers.
uppers and downers to
Yeah.
make it through the day.
Well, and I will say, because I had to really look at that, because I feel like I was sort of going to the extreme on both sides. It's like more uppers, more downers, stimulants, depressants, that when I really like took almost all of it away, I I feel so much more even now.
Mm.
And where I do get the most bang for my buck about waking up is through my exercise. So you know this,
Mm.
I'm religious about my morning hikes. And every day is a little different, but that wakes me up more than anything. And then at the end of the night, it's like that cool down ritual, that warm down ritual that we do for ourselves to take
Mm.
care of ourselves. That really gives me a sense of peace that I think I was trying to get through alcohol.
Right.
So I know that doesn't sound nearly as exciting that you would go out on a walk or you would, do some sort of like calming meditative thing for yourself, but I find those to be natural, free, and the health benefits are great.
Absolutely.
Well, girlfriends, we want to know what you think about this. And also, no judgment here. If things are still working for you and you feel fine, great. Just be advised that there are some risks that come. I also did just want to mention that if you feel at all like you're in an extreme situation, especially as it pertains to alcohol, you can call 988. There's also a really great screening through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration that you can reach out to, and it's called Screen for Success. Well, that was a mouthful. The links are in the show notes in case that was a lot to take in. And until next time, girlfriends,
See you next time. Bye.
bye.